Is that New Hampshire has lost its competitive economic advantage. It's more advantageous today to own a business in the state of Massachusetts than it is in the state of New Hampshire. And we have to stop that trend. Now, one of the problems is our corporate tax rate. New Hampshire has the 5th highest corporate taxes, business taxes, in the entire country. And we already know the United States is the highest tax country, corporate tax country in the industrialized world. New Hampshire is the 5th highest in the United States of America, between our business profits tax and our business enterprise tax, which is a tax on payroll. We tax businesses today that don't even make a profit in the state of New Hampshire. And so I've said we need to ratchet down both of those taxes over the next 7 years. Because, you know, the thing is, we always manage budget to budget. We're always managing by crisis in our state. And again, we have to be thinking long term. We have to talk about a long-term vision for the state. So what I've said is the business profits tax, its current rate is 8.5%. We need to lower it to 5% by the year 2020 if we want to be more economically competitive. Same thing with the business enterprise tax. Its current rate is 0.75%. And I said we need to lower that to 0.25%, where it first started out at, again by the year 2020. And then if you're a small business owner, and you're doing $500,000 or less in revenue a year, and you're not making a profit, exempting you entirely from having to pay that business enterprise tax. Because I don't think it's right that we're taxing small business owners who aren't making a profit, especially if you want to entice entrepreneurs to start businesses in the state of New Hampshire. You know, if you're an entrepreneur, you're looking at all the different risk variables you're going to be taking on in those first few years when you're starting up a business. And you see, geez, the state of New Hampshire is going to tax me no matter what on that business enterprise tax, even if I don't make a profit. And so we need to make it attractive for companies and businesses and entrepreneurs to want to do business in this state. And that's one way we can make it very attractive, is by lowering that corporate tax rate. And before anyone says, well, Kevin, where are you going to find the revenues? How are you going to make up for the revenue that you're going to lose over that 7 years? Well, let me tell you a little story about what happened down in New York City when a guy by the name of Rudy Giuliani did this. He went into New York City. They had some of the highest corporate taxes there. And he went in and over 8 years started slashing those corporate taxes. And guess what happened over 8 years? Tax from businesses, tax revenue for businesses went up because your economic base expands. You have more businesses that are growing jobs, that are moving into the state. You're going to get more tax revenue over time than you would have had you kept the business tax rate exactly the same. In fact, because of this plan, Mayor Giuliani's endorsed my campaign. He's actually coming up to campaign with me in August. And I'm looking forward to that because I think it's a great model that we can employ right here in New Hampshire to not only get existing companies here to grow more jobs, but to move to New Hampshire. You know, I have analyzed and researched this issue 6 ways to Sunday. And I've come up with a proposal and a plan that I believe is a viable plan, is a practical plan, and one that I can fully support and get behind as governor in terms of the future of Rockingham Park. And here's what I've said. I believe we can have a plan that allows for 2 licenses for casinos in the state of New Hampshire. And my only stipulations on is, number 1, that each go out to a fair bid, because I don't believe we should be picking winners and losers in the state. So 2 licenses that would go out to a fair bid. And number 1, that we have a strong regulatory infrastructure in place before any casinos are built, because it's been shown in the states where it's been successful, they have that regulatory infrastructure. And then number 2, any revenues derived from the casinos don't go directly into the general fund. Because I don't want to see government grow and more spending grow as a result of the casinos. But instead, what I've said is a number of things we could use it for. We could use it for infrastructure improvements, finally finishing the widening of I-93, which is so desperately needed. Because if we want more commerce coming into the state, you got to be able to get into the state. And so we have to finish that project. Use it to offsetting business taxes. Use it to offsetting the statewide property tax. I think those are all viable options of what to do with the revenue. I just don't want to see it going into the general fund. But it's more than just having the practical plan for it as well. It's also having a commitment to working with the legislative leadership to usher it through and getting it passed. And I say that because it's not good enough just to say, well, I support it, but I'm going to let it see if it comes to my desk or not. You know, my primary opponent supports a one-place plan of just putting it at Rockingham. We know that's not viable in the legislature. They've tried that before. The legislature is never going to go for that. And he has also said he's personally opposed to it, which means that he's not going to work with the leadership to get it through. I will work with the legislative leadership, and I believe that my plan I'm proposing is a very viable plan for the area and would work to finally bring expanded gaming to Rockingham Park. And I'm committed to that for the folks here in Salem. But at the same time, it will be obviously a competitive bid. So